I've always had this, great relationship with most of the celebrities. And Donald Trump was one of my partners, babysitting celebrities. That's what I was doing.
My guest today is legendary Mark Baker. He's known as the Godfather of New York nightlife.
I and these two other guys basically started doing parties around in crazy on warships, in abandoned buildings.
But behind the success, there's also a dark side. We're talking about his brutal childhood.
I had to take care of myself. There were some bad situations. People got killed.
His time in prison.
The SWAT team came in and arrested me, took me off to some island somewhere off the coast, good for the maximum security prisoners.
And of course, we talk about his life now in Bali. He's living with an 8 real wolves.
This is Loki. He's one of my wolves.
How did you get wolves into Bali?
Next.
I'll start with the wolves because this is elephant in the room, which is wolf in the room.
This is Loki. He's one of my wolves. He's an Arctic wolf. He's a year and a half. He's big. He's very typical wolfy, but he's a big baby really. And there's a lot of sort of myths and legends about wolves. Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma getting eaten. Those are all fables and stories that set the wolf cause back, a couple of 100 years. They never ate Grandma, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have a pack of wolves. I think we have there's more than 20 altogether in Bali, wolf and wolf dog, and I have 8 that live with me at my house. They're just my kids. They're my babies. So.
How did you get wolves into Bali?
Next. Well,
Okay, let's start a different one. Where do they come from?
Okay, so wolves are around the world. There's Canadian wolves that look exactly like that.
Okay.
There's Russian wolves. There's wolves from California. There's wolves from Eastern Europe. Wolves come from all over, and whilst they're all under the sort of the heading gray wolf or timber wolves, some are big, some are smaller. I have a collection of international wolves.
And are they like wild wolves, or were they in captivity?
No, these
before?
guys, my guys are basically born in captivity. When you get a wolf, and there's a difference between wolf and wolf dog. The wolf is wolf, and wolf dog has some dog in it, so they're much easier to train and a bit more easy to sort of control. This one's a wild one, but they were born in captivity. And when I have birthed or been with all of my pack, since they were born, and spent time with them and connecting with them and bonding with them very young, so that helps the domestication process. But they're still wild. They're wild, but semi-domesticated in as much as they don't run around eating people and children and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's crazy. The story was that my son was telling me there was a guy on the beach with the wolves, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah, I think, look, especially in Bali, the dogs here in Bali, the beautiful, natural dogs from here are a lot smaller. So when you see an 80, 85 kilo, wolf this size, walking down the beach, or maybe 5 or 6 of them, it's definitely an eye opener. And they're ambassadors as well. That's the whole purpose one of the purposes of me having them and getting them out there to meet people, is that wolves around the world right now have a real struggle. We're at war with land encroachment and expansion by ranchers, by their herds, sheep farmers, trophy hunters that just love to kill. I mean, nobody's killing wolves because they want to eat them. They're killing them because they're wolf. And so, we have an international battle on right now in America, in some states in America, Scandinavia, Eastern Europe. Russia actually is a lot more tolerant of wolves than most places on the planet. But, just yesterday, Europe blocked all protections for wolves. Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, in America, it's basically open season to slaughter. And I think everyone forgets every dog that's on this planet, is derived from wolves. They were our first best friends. And if you get to know these guys, you will understand. And that's why it's a shock for a lot of people when they say, oh my God, that's a wolf. And when they actually get to meet them, they're like big babies. They're incredible with kids. They're very gentle. They're super intelligent. They're intuitive, mischievously intelligent a lot of the time. But at heart, they're pack animals. They're one of the only animals on the planet that mates for life, a pair, which is what they call the alpha pair, which is the breeding pair.
Yeah.
That whole mythology about this alpha male tough thing that runs the pack is absolute nonsense. It's actually the alpha pair, and in many cases, and certainly in my house and in my pack, the female is actually stronger in a lot more ways than my male, who's the sort of the alpha breeding pair. And then the rest of the pack support the breeding pair. So when there's puppies, there's aunties and uncles, and they stay together for life. They're monogamous. They're incredible, and they're incredibly sensitive. I wish everyone could understand how incredible that they are. At the same time, with the expansion of wolf packs around the world, we do have an issue with ranchers and livestock, but there's ways to deal with that as well. Humans tend to overwhelm everything in nature, and we have a fascination with killing things as humans, which is really sad. And that's look at the state of the world. Humans can be wonderful, but they can be absolutely fucking horrible
Yes, we
and
should
cruel.
talk about that today as well.
So.
How does the other dog react? I heard that when the dog sees a wolf, they're like, "Oh
Yeah,
no!"
monkeys and dogs don't get on well with my guys.
Yeah.
I mean, local Bali dogs don't. They don't speak the same language. It's
Yeah.
like they're completely different. They have, and it's quite shocking for local dogs to see them.
Yeah.
So I do have to be careful. I walk them mostly on leash, especially on the beaches here in Canggu and around in the south. The other half of the time they're up in the north in Badugal. We have our organic farms up there in the mountains.
Yeah.
So we run around the mountains and in the forests up there, and there they can run off leash and howl and act wolfy and all the rest
You
of it.
live a beautiful life now, but your life is full of ups and downs, and I think it's
Yeah.
important to discuss some of them, which is
It's a long story.
it's a crazy long story,
It's
but I
crazy.
wanna get some of the important things. So your dad died when you were 2.
Basically, my sort of tragedy and misfortune has kind of been the theme of my life since before. My father died when I was very young. His brother died in a motorcycle accident. My grandfather, I mean, just everyone was sort of dying. My other grandfather was a speedway racer. We've always been motorcycles and crazy. My other grandfather was a performing artist. On stage, sort of half gypsy, half nomadic, crazy family. I mean, my grandfather was, mad Jack Baker, and I think that sort of madness or wildness has definitely trickled down through my family. But being a young boy when most of your family dies, my poor mother was so traumatized by my father's death that basically she sort of checked out when I was quite young. So I was basically on my own since the age of 5, 6, 7, and by the time I was 7 or 8, I was completely independent and was doing my own thing. My brother, who was also a bit crazy, but more normal than I was. He was shipped off to a boarding school, and I was left to run around on the streets from 8 years old. So an 8-year-old boy in England in the late 60s, early 70s can only get into mischief and have mischief find them. But you learn survival, and look, everybody's got a story, and some is tougher than others. I had a wild and crazy and brutal childhood. I was surrounded by a lot of violence in the places that I was traveling to, especially with the circus. So look, everyone's got a story. My story was definitely a crazy one, but you learn to adapt and you learn to survive. So I think that's just been sort of the common theme in my life, is that it's been a story of survival, and with the survival comes, where do you go with survival? Do you become an out and out absolute fucking villain, crook, murderous gangster?
Yeah.
Or do you try and stay on the tracks and do the right thing and be compassionate and kind and, be a gentleman to women and open doors, all that kind of stuff. So that's been a lifelong battle. And then, obviously with, if you're talking about childhood trauma, whether it's mental, physical, sexual, or whatever, everyone, has some story from childhood, and, and that carries with you for life. It's how you let it affect your life for the rest of your life. And how you adapt to that. A lot of kids who have trauma grow up with rage. I grew up with rage. I mean, like very dangerous rage. I'm capable of wonderful things, but I was capable of terrible things also. And controlling that rage in certain situations has been a challenge for my whole life.
And skateboarding was an outlet for you, for your rage.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, there's a lot that comes before skateboarding, the circus and travel and this and that. But I was basically, I never went to school. I couldn't go to school. The normal schools wouldn't have me because I was too much for them. And I had already sort of grown up so much by the time I was 8, 9, 10 years old, and seen and done things that most people never see in their life. So I wasn't really a good match for schools. And then the only other schools that I was at were basically, they had lock and key on them,
Yeah.
and what we would call reform schools or special schools. And I spent some time here, and then ran and didn't. I never really had a formal education. So I was on the street most of the time, and then skateboarding came along, and of course that was just a channel and an outlet for me to skate individually and with other people on the streets all the time. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and that obviously helped me become better and better. And then skateboarding blew up, and
Which is
that whole
crazy.
chapter, skateboarding, was a
Yeah.
whole other chapter. Yeah.
Because you hold a record for skateboarding, vertical skateboarding.
Well, there's a few. We had I started skateboarding in Brighton, England, where I was sort of grew up until I was like 10 or 11. And we used to watch the California guys, especially. I was always drawn to what we call the Dogtown Boys. You've probably seen the documentaries, Lords of
Yeah.
Dogtown. So Tony Alva, Jay Adams, they were the bad boys of skateboarding. So that was me. I definitely affiliated with them. And we used to wait every month and see the magazines and the blue skies and the swimming pools they were skateboarding. And of course, we emulated them. Those were my heroes. And as time went on, British skating, we got really good. We started to get skate parks,
Yeah.
and I excelled in some of the vertical stuff because it was crazy and wild and dangerous and all the things that we love to do. And then eventually, Tony Alva, who was like the Lord of Dogtown, came to England, and we were paired together. He was Mad Dog Alva, and I was Mad Mark Baker, and
Yeah.
we were mad. so they asked me, "Do you want to go on tour?" And I was like, "Well, fuck yeah! This is my hero." And then we skated. We started traveling all over England. I was getting paid for skateboarding. I mean, all my friends were like robbing post offices and stealing cars and dealing
Yeah.
drugs. And I didn't want to go down that criminal path. I really, really wanted to do something positive with my life, and earn money, but the right way, kind of. And this was an opportunity. Skateboarding became huge. I was world champion speed. I had speed records, but
Wow.
but it was more than that. It was like vertical skating and swimming pools and ramps were the thing. And then when Tony, when we finished our tour, Tony said, "Do you want to come to California with me?" I was like, "Fucking do I want to come to California? Of course I want." I was 15 years old. So I hopped on a plane and went to California. I'm integrated with the Dogtown Boys, so became part of that whole crew, and then spent the next few years backwards and forwards from California. I was on tour all over Europe. We were rock stars. We were
Yeah.
16 years old, and we skateboarding was massive. So we had thousands of people show up at shows, and
Crazy.
skate groupies and cute girls, and I was getting paid to skateboard. I mean, what the fuck, that was crazy. So yeah, it was a dream, and yeah, that was one start to. But there was a lot more that came before that.
Let's talk about that too. So another thing that happened, that you ran with the circus, which is kind of it's an idiom, but you
Look, when
you live that.
look,
You live that idiom.
look, as I said, my mum had kind of checked out, and I wasn't getting like pocket money every week, and mum and dad take you out for a nice dinner. I was on my own, and you learn how to hustle, and I learned how to hustle. I started off, I used to drive around my neighborhood or the area I lived in, Brighton, and throw mud on people's cars, and then go knock on the door and ask them if they wanted their car washed. We used to,
That's a true hustling.
yeah, I mean, you got to earn a living. I learned how to hustle when I was really young, because nobody else was going to pay for it. And I wanted those Dr. Martin boots, and I wanted the Levi jeans, and and everybody had that sort of, I'm not going to. That's not Christ. I learned a lot from those early days of surviving. I learned how to survive, and no one was giving me anything for nothing, so I went out and earned it. So I started to sort of develop this sort of business acumen. Washing the cars was one, and stealing bottles and returning them for money was another. But then one day the circus came to town, and it was Chipperfield Circus. It was in Brighton. I think it was like 1970, 71. I was 9, 10, something, no, 8, 9. I was 9. And it was this wonderful show, and it was exciting. And I got to one of the guys who was involved, one of the managers or leaders of the what we call the advance crew, which did all the publicity for the circus. And I went knocked on his trailer one night, and I was like, "Oi, I need a job." And he looked at me and he was like, "Like what?" I said, "I don't know if I can do anything. What do you want?" So I started my first job with the circus was we would drive around the town and he had this van with the music blaring, the circus is coming to
Yeah,
town. And I would sit on top of the van dressed up in a monkey suit or as a clown, and
yeah,
I'd be waving at the kids and the music was blaring. I'd be throwing,
nice.
posters or flyers for the show. So that was my first sort of promotion distribution job, which later in life, of course,
Yes,
ended up doing me good. So I used to jump off the van and go and scare the kids in the monkey. I mean, it was nuts. It was like this rickety old chair on top of a van. And then when the circus left, I was like, I want to go with it. And I mean, trying to judge the state of mind of my mother. I'm 8 years old, 9 years old. And I was like, Mum, I'm going to go away for a while. He goes, okay, darling, where you go? I said, I'm going with the circus. We're going to tour England, Liverpool and Bristol and Manchester and Bournemouth. And she was like, okay, darling, keep in touch.
wow.
And she let me go. I mean, she couldn't really argue with me because I was pretty strong-willed. So I joined the circus. And then, look, the circus is wonderful and glamorous and the lions and the tigers and the elephants, but it's also fucking super sinister. And there's a lot of very bad people who travel with the circus because of, you can remain pretty anonymous. And, in that time you had the traveling circuses, but you also had the traveling fairs, like the pikeys, the fairgrounds.
Yeah,
And every time we would come to a town, we would clash. There'd be like 100 ring boys and 100 fair boys, and people were getting stabbed and murdered, and
wow.
God
It's
knows
very dangerous.
it was super violent. I was carrying a gun when I was 9 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, it was brutal.
Well, was it what you expected when you ran away with the circus? Did you had like some
Of course, it was
crazy,
exciting.
crazy
I
dream?
was smoking cigarettes
Yeah,
and drinking beers with the ring boys. They were like 18, 19. And I was 9, 10, and then I was on and off with the circus for about 3 years. But again, a 9 or 10-year-old boy alone
yes.
traveling in that environment. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to know that there are predators out there, and they was always preying on me. That's for sure.
Wow.
But so I had to take care of myself. There was some bad situations. People got killed.
Okay. I think that's how it ended, right? Somebody got killed and then the
Yeah.
circus
Well, there was a
situation.
couple of people who got killed actually, but so when it all came on top and the cops came, and by then, most of the police around the country
Yeah.
knew who I was, and there was somebody got killed, and they never found out who it was, but I went back to Brighton. They were like, enough, we keep bringing you back home because the cops were taking me back home, and I was on registers and watch lists and all the rest of
How
it.
does little child's brain comprehend something like this when you're so young and somebody got killed? It's
When you
probably,
see them get killed,
yeah, when you see them get
or
killed.
if you're doing the killing, yeah, sure, yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah,
I mean, most people, obviously, in their nice protected lives with nice families and stuff like that, wouldn't be able to comprehend it. But in that environment, I mean, you've only got to look at kids in, the Middle East or Afghanistan, where
yeah,
that's that violence and that death and extreme survival is natural. So you learn, and you learn how to survive. The question is how bad do you go? Do you again become an out and out murderous villain where violence is something that you see all the time, or do you pull back from that and try and adhere to some normals and just sort of hustle your way through? But it was quite clear when I was very young. I mean, I had tattoos and prison tattoos and stuff like that. I still got them, from child institutions the most people never see in their life. I'd seen and done all of that by the time I was 11.
yeah,
So you learn how to survive, and then without any formal education, life just started being how the fuck am I going to feed myself tomorrow? What am I going to come up with now to feed myself? And then skateboarding came along. That was that. And then every job and career and everything I've ever done in my life has been pretty much a career or a job. I call it a career, a lifestyle that I've created from nothing. Nightclub promotion, we started that. The circus, we started that. etc., etc.,
You're
etc.
OG of hustling. Like when they were
Yeah,
hustling,
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. Hustling in a good way. You
yeah,
know, like I never hurt no one. You
yeah,
know, I never hurt no one that didn't need to be hurt.
yeah,
Put it that way. You know, and there were bad people out there that at times needed to be addressed,
yeah.
and and shit went down, and that was that. But no, at heart, I like to think, I'm a sweetheart. I just want to cuddle and a hug sometimes, and
Amazing.
I never had it as a kid, so
Yeah,
boo hoo. But it started this absolute fucking roller coaster of a life that where every day has been an adventure. And on top of that, when you have a father who's died and everyone's dying around you, I always thought I'd be fucking dead by 25.
yeah,
Then I was 30, and I was like, there's no way I'm making it past 30. So I just wanted to live every minute of every day, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that I didn't miss anything before it was my time, because I was convinced that my time was going to come early. And then now I'm fucking 62 and I'm still going.
amazing. I haven't been in this situation. My compared to your life, my life is just a sweet dream. So something I don't really understand, because for me, some bad things happen and I really feel it, and it's like it drives me, it drives a rage, as you said. But the things you experienced, what in your head still allow you to say, I just still want to be good? I see all these bad people, I see all these killings, but I want to be good. There's something good in me. I want to be good.
I've always sort of had an affinity for the underdog, the Down syndrome kids. I cry every time I see a kid I can cry now. Every time I see a kid, with Down syndrome, it hits me really hard. Um, Kids being bullied, girls being abused. Those are the things that bring out absolute fucking rage in me,
Yeah,
as well as being looked down on or belittled. And of course, over time, I've had millions of dollars. I've had fucking Ferraris, Rolls Royces, boats, cars. I've had it all. And at the same time, I can still walk around barefoot and sleep in a tent. I don't
yeah,
really, it doesn't really bother me. I can swing either way. But being belittled, or that comes from childhood. So if you belittle me, or you disrespect in a bad way, sit down, sweetheart. That's that used to trigger me a lot more. If I see bullying or,
yeah.
or, or women abuse and stuff like that, come here, you. Come here. Just say why you're here. Let's just say hi. Oh, that's my boy.
Wow.
You can see his beautiful eyes. He's got his big, big, but he's such a sweetheart. He's my boy. I love him so much. Anyway, so animals, can we sit down, please? Thank you. When when my mother was having her breakdowns, I used to go and stay with my grandmother, and she was while Mad Jack was off speedwaying,
Yeah,
she was training, champion dogs. She was border collies. And I used to, and she was living on a council estate, which is like, the projects, in the West is for poor people. And I'd sleep with the dogs, and I would be there for, quite a lot of time when I wasn't running off. So, and I loved my grandmother, so she was just the most incredible person. So the dog factor, I found sort of solace with the dogs, and I became obviously seeing her train them. Sit down, thank you. I'm seeing her train them, help me later on in life, because I think I have a pretty good connection with dogs and
yeah,
now wolves. But you know, just poverty but that rage stuck with me for years. There were triggers, people who say they're going to do things who don't, girls who let you down, etc., etc., and people who, there were many times in my life that anyone would sort of cross a line with my girlfriend or my partner, would get a severe fucking beating, and that was really bad, because I wouldn't just beat them, I'd really hurt them, and it then became in public and in nightclubs. I was fighting people, and of course in New York when we had all the clubs, poor, security guards around, that all work for us, and in clubs, well, I didn't know what to do, because when I lost it, and of course booze and drugs were involved, which doesn't help. So I was not good if I lost my temper, and I was bashing people and getting bashed, and it was just horrible. And and containing that rage, I'd go like white blind rage, which is dangerous. I mean, thankfully, I never went to prison for any of that stuff. But people got bashed up. So, but that's been a challenge. But I've went into some sort of therapy for it, and
yeah,
just as I get older, I calm down and try not to get triggered. And you like, again, everyone's got issues that trigger them. A lot of it to do with childhood.
Yeah.
And you just have to see those warning signs coming and have a mechanism to deal with that, because everybody's got stories, you know.
Yeah. And your downfall from your skateboarding career went when you went to prison.
Yeah, well, skateboarding had, you know, we thought skateboarding was never going to end and we were going to go on forever. And then, you know, in the early 80s, skateboarding, just because of insurance, people getting hurt, the cost of skate parks to maintain. Skateboarding got, BMX came in, that rollerblading came in. I don't know how the
Yeah.
fuck that became popular, but yeah, skateboarding just died. And then I was like, oh fuck, what am I going to do now? I thought that was going to be, that was it. We sail off into the sunset and do the Olympics one day and all the rest of it. That's when the Olympics were a dream for skateboarding. You know? And then and it ended. So I'd been traveling. I was in Scandinavia a lot. I'd been traveling around. So I'd made friends all over the world. And I was in one of those countries. And, you know, somebody one day was like, this is the early 80s. You know, someone's like, well, you got any hash? And I was like, well, I don't have any hash, you know, but I know people who have it. So I connected some people a couple of times. And then before I knew it, there were SWAT teams coming in the window and I was getting arrested at gunpoint. And yeah, I spent some time in prison.
So somebody set you up.
Yeah, it wasn't just set up. It was, I took a fall for a bunch of people. I had the time on my hands at that time, you know, and these were friends of mine that had been doing business with hash, weed. You know, it was not like we were dealing heroin or they were dealing heroin. It was just, you know, it was weed, it was hash. And at that time we thought it was pretty harmless. But in this country, it was very strict and they have a life sentence for any kind of trafficking of hash and stuff like that. So, you know, when they busted us, you know, there's a lot of my friends, you know, they had families and careers, and I didn't really have a lot going on at that time. So I kind of took a fall for a bunch of people and, you know, kept quiet and didn't rat them out.
And they put you in a solitary confinement and they told you
that was
you
brutal.
have a life sentence.
That was, yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've done your research.
Which is crazy.
I was 19, you know, and they, you know, the SWAT team came in and arrested me, took me off to some fucking island somewhere off the coast for the maximum security prisoners. And I was like, okay, well, can I get a lawyer now? And I'll be out of here in bail in a couple of days. And they're like, well, we don't have bail here. It's just not part of our system. So you're going to be here. So I was in solitary for like 6 months, you know, during the investigation where they were trying to break me down and get me to rat everybody out, which they didn't. 6 months in solitary confinement as a 19-year-old is pretty fucking tough. You know, it's a small room and you get out, you know, for 30 minutes every day if you're lucky. You know, no TV, no radio. If you're lucky, you get a book. So you have a lot of time to think and you learn patience. And then eventually I was lucky, I made it to jail and that was a bit better. And then I sat, and then this crooked cop was, I mean, it's a movie, to be honest with you. It was this crooked cop who had a crush on my girlfriend, who was a pretty good looking girl at that time. He was crooked and he set up and planted shit and did all kinds of bad things with the case. He actually ended up going to jail for 5 years for stealing amphetamine from the prison stores.
And that's how you got out?
No, I didn't. I had a case. They gave me a life sentence,
yeah,
which in this country is 14 years, which means I would have sat like 8 to 10 years. But then because of everything and new evidence, because the cop has done some crooked shit, we went back, we had a retrial and they gave me 3 years and I sat a year and a half. I did half time. So, and 6 months of that was solitary. So.
And how does jail compare to being in a circus, compared to having a rough childhood?
It was just another day. I'm not going to say it's easy. I mean, jails in this country aren't, you know, it's not like Rikers Island, New York. You know, that's really rough. But no, I was 19. I didn't know what was, you know, I felt like such a loser. You know, I was like, oh fuck, man. I knew everyone said you're going to end up in prison, and I ended up in prison. But I did good. You know, I learned a language. I learned a couple of languages actually while I was in jail. I was hustling and cutting hair. I couldn't cut hair to fucking save the planet, but I was butchering everyone's hair, getting money, taking goods out of the kitchen, and I ran every fucking scam in the jail. And when I got out, the second day after I got out, I bought myself a new Jaguar.
Yeah, but before that was a crazy story. When they let you out, you ran out, and then there was a situation.
Well, there was. When you're in jail in foreign countries, they automatically take you out of jail and they deport you. And I love this country, and all my friends were there, and you know, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So when we came out, they sent these 2 guards and they handcuffed, you know, we were handcuffed and they took me to the airport. Actually, I thought I was going to get arrested again when I came out of jail because the cop had said, you'll never leave he hated me because he couldn't break me, you know. So, but then he ended up going to prison, which was, I sent him postcards from, you know, Ibiza and everywhere after that. But so these guards, you know, took me on handcuffs on the plane, and they were sitting with me because they had to make sure that when you fly into England, that I didn't get deported back to them. You know, they had to see that I went. Anyway, they didn't speak a word of English. So on the plane, I'm like, this is against the Geneva Convention. You can't handcuff me on a fucking plane. So as soon as they took the cuffs off, I was running around the plane to sit on my own. I didn't want to show up in England with 2 prison guards in uniform. You know, I didn't want England to know. This is before they had international sort of Interpol records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we get there and we get to the customs and or the immigration, and I did the razzle dazzle and spoke to them in their language, and they and they were like, "Well, who are these guys?" I said, "Well, they're just delivering a prisoner. He's over there somewhere." I just bullshitted my way through it, and then they were like, "No, they're trying to explain, but they couldn't speak English to the guy that I'm the prisoner." But anyway, I got rid of them and I dissed them. So then I went into customs, and customs guy pulls me over. And I had these books, you know, and I cut the books out, and inside was all the money that I'd saved to buy my Jag. I didn't want to come out and be a complete nothing, zero. But they're searching for the bag, and in the bag he found a piece of hash. So I got back into England, and he's like, "Well, what's this?" And I looked, I was like, "Oh man, it's been in that bag, you know, from when I went to jail. I've been there for a year and a half." So he goes, "Well, it doesn't look like mouse shit, does it?" I was like, "Oh, fuck." I was like, "No, I didn't know it was there." So he goes, "Well, where have you been?" And I started to say, "I was in this comedy." He goes, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "I was in jail." And I started crying, and I was like, "Oh, I fucked up really bad." He goes, and he was really cool. So he took the hash and he flicked it away. He was this Welsh guy with big blue eyes. He was like a grandfather. And he gave me a hug. And he was like, "Well, listen, you learned, you know, you fucked up, but you know, you're young. You've got the rest of your life ahead of you. Have a good life. Don't fuck up again." Never forget him. He was an amazing guy. And he goes, how did you get all that money?" I goes, "I fucking worked and I hustled in jail." He was laughing.
Yeah.
Just,
Kindness of people like that, I think that
you know, it
gets
was
us to
like
believe
I
in the world.
just getting a break. You know, when look, some people have all the luck in the world, and what you know, they can whatever they do, it's always going to go right. They're going to make money. And some people just they have to fight for every inch of the way. I mean, you just don't get a fucking break. So, you know, if you're going to step in, you're going to step in the shit. You know, some people can just walk right through and wouldn't. But it's just when you get a break and people show you kindness when they're either trying to hurt you, rob you, or rape you, you know, having somebody who gives you a break, you know. Well, there you go. Mr. Ow, to you too. I poke him when he does that on cue. You know? So, yeah, you know, and then I was back in England and I sat there and I was like, "Oh man, what the fuck am I going to do now? You know, skateboarding's done." I think I went to work as
Insurance.
an insurance, which is the most, I had a Jag, you know, I had the Jag. So I was driving, knocking on people's doors. "Hello, can I introduce you?" Slam, you know, felt like I was selling Bibles. I was like, I can't do this. So then I was wheeling and dealing, and the town I was in was an absolute villainous, wonderful town, Brighton in England, but full of absolute fucking villains. So I could see myself falling into villainy. You know, people were robbing things and burgling houses, and it was a big antique centre, so there's lots of dodgy antiques and jewelry being passed around, and there was this like, you know, this area that we used to hang in. It was like a beehive of crookery. And I've just come out. I don't want to go back to jail. And of course, everyone's doing drugs, and you know, you either go into, you know, you're stealing or you're dealing. You know, it was one of the two, and I just didn't want to do that. Anyway, I did some things, and I bought a Porsche. But it was a Porsche with the driving on the left hand, on the other side, because in England they drive on the other side of the road. So I had this Porsche and I was driving around Brighton, you know, and I was getting stopped every hour by the cops there. They were like, you know, "Oh, come here, sit down." They were, I was every hour, the cops were out, hands on the car, searching me, you know, this and that. They found some hash once. They found a gun once. God knows what that was doing there. But and I was just like, if I go on like this, I'm just sooner or later I'm going to be back in the boob, in the jail, you know. So then one summer we were in Greece on a holiday with a bunch of guys, and we ran into a bunch of New York guys, very cool, you know, good-looking young New York fellas. Okay. He's like, "I want to be interviewed." And then there were a bunch of Colombians there as well, and they had all these Indian guys. It was like, it's a movie. I can't even, I mean, every day's a fucking movie. You know, they're making actually I just signed my life rights to a very big company in California, in Hollywood. They want to develop a scripted series about my life. And I was telling them some of the stories. They're like writers couldn't make this shit up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
yeah.
fucking movie. So anyway, we're in there. There's the Colombians and all the Indians have got their hands like this. They ended up being Pablo Escobar's like number 2.
Wow.
And, we, of course, like, well, you're from Colombia. What have you got in the bag?
So they were just on vacation.
Yeah, they were on vacation. He was on vacation. He ended up getting murdered 2 years later on, but he was a big dealer and he had, so of course we're like, oh, got any sniff? He fucking throws a rock across the table. So we were partying like 2 weeks nonstop. And anyway, at the end of the vacation, the guys said, look, why are you in England? Just come to New York. I'm like, okay. And then they said, well, you've got a Porsche with the driving wheel on the other side. And you keep getting in trouble. So why don't you just ship the car over to America and sell it because the dollar and the pound were like these different things. So I started importing cars, and then I raised some money, and so I was driving it around New York in slant nose 930 Porsche turbos and Rolls Royces, Jaguars, Porsche, Ferraris. I had all of those cars, which went great for a while. And then I'm in New York. I've arrived in New York, and the first night I arrived in New York, I was coming across the bridge. I got the Ferrari, the Porsche, the music blaring. And we were going to the hottest club in New York, which was called Area at this point. This was like, down in 1782, like 1983, in Lower Manhattan. And we get there, and I'm with this group of guys, and they're like, oh, we're never going to get in. I was like, well, let's give it a shot. New York was rumbling. Have you ever seen Manhattan for the first time from, looking across the river? And you see New York, and you just hear this rumble and the skyscraper. I was like, oh, fuck, man, this is it. I found home. Every black sheep of the family is in one city. And we drove in, and then I look up, there's 500, 600 people outside the door. And I look up on the door, and there's a guy called Jules Gayton. Shout out Jules. He was on the door doing like the face control, who you can come in. And so I looked at him, my wife sent all the bouncers out, and then we come in, and that was it. Mick Jagger was there, and Boy George, and God knows who else was there. Everyone was like fucking partying their ass off. Yeah. And I was just looked around that first night. I was like, I'm never leaving this town. This is my town. And, within a year and a half, I networked half of Manhattan. And
you were the guy who created the concept of club promotion.
Well, yeah. So we was driving there all these cars, and half the time we didn't have the money for gasoline. So we'd be siphoning petrol out of people's cars and going to the Hamptons, which is like the beach area, the rich area, and we'd be having to suck petrol out, to put gas in. Then one weekend I went away, and my partner smashed up 3 of the cars. It was like 300 grand's worth of cars. No insurance. The insurance company said no, so I lost everything. I was broke again. Oh man, what the fuck are we gonna do now? So I had 2 jobs. I was delivering furniture. So I had to go to work,
Yeah.
So and I didn't want to leave New York City. So I was delivering furniture for a company. And then the company expanded and started selling jewelry and loaning money. It was a Russian company. So then, then I became the collector. So when people didn't pay, I had to go and get it back or collect the money or whatever. So I was debt collecting. My name was Mr. Sharky, like Loan Shark,
Yeah.
So I was Mr. Sharky for a couple of years. And me and this crazy Israeli guy would go up into the South Bronx, Harlem, Brooklyn. I mean, the worst fucking crack-filled gangster neighborhoods. 2 white guys, which is, they thought we were absolutely insane because no white people would even walk up there. We were carrying handcuffs and guns and walkie-talkies and stuff. But bit by bit, we got to know everybody in the hoods. So, comes Mr. Sharky, and I was always kind. Look, if they didn't have the money, I'd put the file at the bottom of the case and give them 6 months. But if they were trying to rob us, then I'd find them and we'd get the money.
Yeah. How do you get the money?
We got it eventually. Persuasion.
Okay.
So this crazy Israeli with these crazy blue eyes, your next paratrooper, and I drive up there in the Porsche or the Rogues, and they just couldn't figure us out. They were like, these guys are they're either cops or they're insane.
Yeah.
So, but we got friendly, and then then I started meeting Biggie Smalls, Notorious Big, and all the rappers, and I was in Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Harlem, and I started making friends with everybody. Okay, and so cute, and then later on in life, of course, that obviously came back with New York, and that came back to help because I was on first name basis with them when they all started, well, a lot of them anyway. So, would you please come here? So in the daytime I was debt collecting, and then I thought, well, I fucking know so many people, I should throw parties. Why don't I just do a party and everyone will come? And back then there was no promoters, there was no such thing as promoters. What, Sweet Pea? There's no such thing as promoters. It was the club like
Uh-oh.
Studio 54 or Zeno. Sorry, is that checking it?
It's
Or
okay.
Zeno. Sit down, sweetie. Come on. Yes, he's a talker. Just sit down, sweetie. Just be good. Please. So, yeah, it was the club. The club opened. They didn't have promoters. He's quite determined. Sorry. And so I thought, well, why don't we do this? Let me throw a party and see if I can make some money at it. No one had ever done that before. So me and 3 other guys, we started like going to venues that were quiet, putting out invitations, and they'd come. But the first party I did, I it was at Ronnie Wood's place from the Rolling Stones, and I was like, oh man, I know so many people. I'm fucking so cool. I'm going to invite, there's 1,000 people going to come, 2,000 maybe. So I had them set up barriers down the block and block the road off. And it was a rainy Monday night. And I was like, yes, it's going to be the best party. I spoke to Ronnie. I was like, yes, it's going to be the best party you've ever seen. Well, when the night of the party, 4 people showed up.
All right.
I was hiding under the DJ console. I was so embarrassed. I don't think I've ever had anything that felt as bad as that. It's like, I think the only thing I can equate is like most people who do dinner parties,
Yeah.
the stress involved with having a dinner party and it's got to be perfect and they've got 8 guests. So imagine doing that for like 3,000 people
Wow.
every day for years.
Crazy.
So anyway, I hid under the DJ because I just didn't want them to see me in an empty room. And I'm like, and so they were coming in, they turned around and they walked right out again. It was the biggest failure ever. And then I went back, back to the drawing board, and I was like, I never ever want to feel like that again. That will never ever happen because I didn't do it right. I didn't prepare right, and I sort of came up with this formula to have a proper party. You've got to have the right venue, the right day of the week, the right talent, the right DJ, the right promotion, the right invites, this, that. And this is before Facebook and Instagram, where you just press a button and reach 100,000 people. So I and these 2 other guys basically started doing parties around in crazy on warships, in abandoned buildings.
How do you find a warship to do a party on? Do you contact like a Navy?
Yeah, I contacted the Navy and the U.S. Department of the MOD, Ministry of Defense. Anyway, and they let us do a party on the Intrepid warship. But I made a poster which was Uncle Sam, and it said, take a trip on a ship, which meant, everyone was going to be doing acid and mushrooms and drugs and God knows what. And 4,000 people showed up. And one guy tried to climb up the anchor and drowned. Anyway, they canceled that right away. It wasn't their image. But we used to do these crazy, and they got famous and all the celebs started showing up. And then the whole supermodel thing started. And this was before supermodels were supermodels. So it was the models were just like models, and the celebrities were celebs. But then it turned around and all the celebs and the rock stars were all chasing the models, and they were all our friends, the Europeans, the Swedes, the Americans. And so my party started to have all the models, all the girls, and then of course all the celebrities came, and then boom, off we went. We were doing 2-3 events a week with 3,000-4,000 people a time would show up. And again, this is just by banging the phone.
Yeah.
And I had a small little team with us. We used to bike around Manhattan handing out it. We'd go to the model castings. So, that's how we started the business of promotion. And then we started doing the clubs. And then one night, I'm in the VIP room of one of the clubs, and this poor waitress was trying to get a tray of drinks through the crowd. And every time she went through the crowd, somebody would knock them over, smash, crash. Yeah. So I was like, why you do that? Why don't you just get a bottle and put it on the table and put the mixers on the table? Oh, that's a good idea. So then I started to have the tables with bottles on it, and they charge them for the bottle. Everyone would feel really cool. I've got a bottle of champagne. So that's what started bottle service.
Wow.
So we were the first people. I mean, everyone will probably hate me for it now, but we started bottle service.
Why not?
So that was another thing. So we started promotion, we started bottle service, and then we started all these crazy promotional things. And then I opened up my first restaurant, like lounge club in Manhattan, that became so big, it got shut down. Like 5,000 people outside, and the neighborhood got upset. I mean, it just went. So it was this, and then our clubs were quite well known around the world. So we had all the hot clubs and the cool clubs, and we kept doing all these crazy events. And then we started, because we had all the models, we started all the fashion weeks around the world. So London, Milan, Paris, Russia, etc. And then the film festivals, Monaco. Cannes Film Festival, Sundance, this, that, blah, blah. We were doing all the film festivals, and then we'd do all the Grand Prix. So I was just on a fucking jet most of the time with my team, We didn't sleep for weeks at a time because we just didn't sleep. Okay, and we just got this reputation for throwing the most outrageous all over the world. So, and this went on for like 15, 20 years.
Jack Nicholson, fun fact,
Jack, bless him.
created the name of
Of
one of your
yeah, of a Buddha bar.
yeah.
Yeah, we were sitting around one night, all talking, and there's a great guy called Alan Finkelstein who was best friends with Jack, and Jack was always my favorite. Him and Sean Penn, and those tough guys. And we were sitting around, and he was like, "Well, let's call it the Buddha Bar." So we opened up the original Buddha Bar, which was, again, it was the Oscars every night. It was crazy,
Yeah.
and flowers and Lotus and the double. So we had about life. I mean, we had so many clubs and restaurants, and then of course, every fashion we'd zoom off to Paris, and all the New York crew and the models and the celebs would sort of be in all those places. So we did it, but and the adventures. I mean, I can't even every day. I mean, it was mad. It was I don't know how we survived. I mean, I don't. And eventually, of course, when you start, you get a bit older and 30, 35, 40, 45, and I'm not sleeping for weeks at a time. So it was time to clean up and get semi-sober and stop doing the bad stuff because everyone was doing it. In
Yeah.
fact, they're all still doing it. and then and in between all of that, I was coming to Bali every year in August just to hug a tree and cry and get some sleep and try to get all spiritual. And then we go back in September after Labor Day and do it all over again with Fashion Week. And I did that for since the early '80s. So I've always loved Bali. Bali's always been a refuge. And then eventually, where do you go after I also call it the Godfather of Nightlife. I mean, where do you go after New York? New York's great if you're a young person, but it's not. It gets tougher as you get older, and of course, it's horribly expensive. So, I mean, we made millions, we spent millions, we had all the toys. So I just think it was like, I did it. I did New York, and then I did it again, and then I did it one more time just to make sure, and then I did it sober. So I spent a couple of years without partying, which was not as much fun in some ways, but it was a lot healthier, and I got a lot more quality business done and made a lot more money. That's for sure. I started a juice company that became $100 million company in New York called the Juice Press, and with my partners. Started cold press juicing, organic, feeling good and healthy, and then I figured it was time to hand the baton over to the next generation of club promoters, of which by now, now we were 3 guys, and then there were 10, and then there was maybe 100, but now there's hundreds of thousands of promoters.
Yeah.
Everyone who can bring 5 people to a club is a promoter, or 5 girls, they're a promoter. But we started that business.
Yeah.
Imagine,
Crazy.
crazy. So, but then I look back, and it was so when it came towards the end, and I started this juice company and got healthy, and I was like, you know what, it's time for me to check out when I'm ahead. I'm not some tired old has-been club promoter.
Yeah.
That many became or died, of which many have died. I just said, you know what, I've done good. I got cleaned up. I've got some good businesses. It's time for me to move on gracefully and hand the baton over to the next generation of club promoters who were a lot more business savvy than we were. I mean, these guys went to university and college and knew business, and Vegas started becoming really big. So, and they started, creating multi-venues and doing capital raises against those revenues on the multi-venue. And they make, some of these kids, Mike, I call them my kids, they've got all the top venues in the world now. I still keep in touch with everybody all the time. And they're very, really respectful. And I think they're happy that I found a new life in Bali.
Yeah.
And they make, millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I'm quite content in Bali.
So I guess that's my question. Living this wild life, having everything you can ever imagine. In your phone book, there's any celebrity you can imagine.
Mhm.
And then moving out of it. If you look back, what are the biggest learnings from there?
Never give up. Never. No is not an option. If you want something bad enough, you got to fight for it. I think these days, kids, I call them kids, young people, you see the Instagram, you see the haves, the have-nots. I mean, a lot of it's bollocks. It's not even real, a lot of it. But I've managed to reach a place, thank God, that I'm content. I'm really content. I couldn't wish for anything more than what I have. I don't really own shoes anymore. I wear a sarong most of the time. I live with my wolves. I have small needs. I love my lifestyle here. It's healthy. I get to be in nature a lot. I've got, obviously organic farms here now, and Savaya, of course. I work with a fantastic group of people and team at Savaya, and it's like a family. So I get my nightclub, yeah, and Desa Kitsuni, obviously in Canggu. So I got my nightlife stuff there, but that's not really late night nightlife because it's not 4 o'clock in the morning in a dingy club with people doing drugs. It's Savaya and Kitsuni. They're really upscale places, and that's great. So I spend my time between those venues, my farms in the north, my wolves, and basically just staying healthy. I spent most of my life trying to kill myself. Now I want to spend the rest of it staying alive and enjoying it. I'm content. That doesn't mean to say that wanting to have all the toys and the supermodel on your arm and the Ferraris and the cars and all this. Yeah, of course, most young men and women now, of course, you should want it. They're fun.
Yeah.
They're fun. It's great to have a
But
Ferrari.
if you look back at your life, would you change anything?
Honestly,
Sure.
not really, because everything, even the bad, I've managed to learn from it. I didn't really have I mean, what can you do? I've had days where days, weeks, months, I've had catastrophe where I've just lost everything, I mean, frequently, not just once or twice. I mean, even in Bali, I had restaurants, one slid down a hill during the rain. I lost that. I lost everything. COVID nearly wiped me out. I lost, 3 restaurants and businesses and God knows what. My life savings, I was at zero after COVID. But, you either, look, you sit there, you cry a little bit and you just get back on, you dust yourself off, and you get the fuck back out there and do it. You can't. Nobody ever won by giving up. So life isn't fair. Life can be cruel, and Bali as well is obviously that's a whole nother story. I mean, I personally think we're blessed to be. I love this island. I tiptoe. I worship Bali and the culture and the religion and the people. Of course, it's changing, but it's still Bali. It's still 30 minutes outside of Canggu. It's you're in the hills. But I just content. I'm content, and I don't wish for. I, d- I don't wish for anything really. I'm quite content with what I have, which is it's probably one of the most understated situations to be in when you're just not searching for anything else. You can just take a deep breath and say, you know what? I look around. I'm happy for what I got. A family or kids. In this case, it's wolves. But I think these days the pressure is on for these kids and girls and boys to look better, to be more beautiful, to have more money. I mean, if, was it like a quarter of the percent of 1% actually has all of these toys? The rich keep getting richer. The poor ain't.
Yeah.
Once in a while, somebody breaks out, but it's pretty set up in a way that you're not going to break out. So what do you do with your life? I mean, these days travel. It's not like you work most people don't necessarily have to work 50 weeks a year to have a 2-week holiday. So, look, I think there's pros and cons to the world now as it was in the 2000s, in the 90s, in the 80s. There's a lot more information. There's too much information out there. It seems, I get quite sad actually at the state of the world with, what we're doing to the planet, obviously, and what we're doing to cruelty to animals and whales and dolphins and all of that. I mean, it sounds a bit kumbaya, but it's true, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and kids these days, I just think you never give up. You make mistakes, but you dust yourself off and you get back out there and you do it better the next time. You learn from your mistakes. And every day you've got to look in the mirror and say, do I like that person in the mirror? Have I done good? Did I fuck somebody over today? Did I cheat somebody? Was I rude, not rude, but did I behave badly? Was I, I mean, God forbid now, the guys think it's okay to smack women. I mean, my God, that's the biggest no ever. They say, oh yeah, but they deserve it. I'm sorry, I'm old school. There's nothing that could ever justify smacking a woman.
For sure.
And just being a gentleman, open a door, light a cigarette, just be a good guy. And karma's a funny word. Cause and effect is a better way to put it. Every action has a reaction, but just every day, it may take longer to win. There's no such thing as quick money. It takes time to build a brand. It takes time to build a business. It takes time to be taken seriously when you're building a business. You know, if you're washing hair one day and selling insurance the next and real estate the next, and then you're a bartender, I mean, who's going to take you seriously? You've got to stick with something for a while and become really good at it. Then you start to get the success. So,
Yeah, 100%. Talking about the parties, the world has changed a lot since you were doing your parties to
mhm.
now. Everything is online, everything is visible. We had recent situation with Puff Daddy, who
Well,
you know,
I know Diddy very well. Or Puffy, I call him Puff, but yeah, cool. I know Puffy very well, and yes, of course. But there's accountability. You know, actions have reacts. You know, have consequences. And again, you know, I saw the whole growth of the hip hop and R&B movement, um, which obviously started, early 90s or late 80s, early 90s, and then they became quite prominent. And of course, there was the gangster rap and the East Coast, West. So I was right in the middle of half of that.
yeah,
Me and my partner did Puffy's tour, his first tour in Europe. So we did London, Paris, south of France. And that was the Forever tour. I know Puffy very well, and I was at his white parties too. But this was before Puffy just. I think over time, not just Puff, but a lot of these guys just there was too much partying, there was too many drugs. Things started to get out of control. You get a complex, a power complex, where everyone's saying yes to. He's a very forceful fella. I never went to any of the after hours stuff. And that wasn't just because what was going on. Because back in those days, there wasn't the bad stuff that we hear about. This is only something that's happened in the past sort of 10 years ago. But I was always getting high and going off and doing my own thing. I didn't want to be around other people when I was not looking so good, and I was too much to drink and that. But I heard, later on, that things were getting crazy, not just with Puffy, but with a lot of people. But be careful if you fly too high. What's the Greek mythology where he flew too close to the sun?
yeah,
You believe your own hype too much and you think you're above the law, sooner or later it's going to come and catch up with you, and that's the case with many. I pride myself that over my career, I always, when we had young girls in the club or 19, 18, 19, 20-year-old models, I was always super protective of them. Anyone who'd given drugs, they got clipped. They got home on time. We made sure they got to the job the next day. And trying to be a responsible community leader in that way. But it seems like it's all gone mad now. There's no. It seems like there's no rules. Chivalry seems to be dying. I mean,
yeah.
I'm an old school fucking OG.
It is interesting, yeah, all those celebrities, once you start finding out about what's happening, and like, why do you
Yeah,
need any of this? You can have like Diddy can have any woman he wants,
it-
and then he still does some crazy shit. Like,
it's a
why?
power thing. It's a drug thing. It's you just believe your own bollocks.
Yeah,
And that will be your downfall. Is that you've always got to try and stay grounded. To an extent. I mean, I never reached obviously, you know, Puffy's celebrity status.
yeah,
Me and my crew were like more infamous than famous. But yeah, it's you keep looking in the mirror. Like today, did I do the right thing? Was I polite? Was I correct? Did I rip anybody off? When I had that choice to go that way or that way, did I choose the right road? And you got to do that every day, every morning, every night, and keep yourself in check and have you got to have a voice and a conscience inside here, or it just becomes you believe your own shit. And when you start to do that, it's only a matter of time before it goes bad. So
yeah.
yeah, every day's a challenge.
So spending time with so many celebrities, what is your insight about humanity?
I'm not kissing and telling, that's for sure. I look, I was babysitting celebrities. That's what I was doing. After midnight when they came to my clubs, which is like my house. I see them after midnight. I see them vulnerable. They probably had a drink or a couple of this or that they shouldn't have been doing. They let the guard down. And that's one of the reasons why our places were so popular in New York, especially Lotus and Double Seven and places like that, were that I never kissed and tell. My partners never kissed and tell on about what was going on in those private rooms. We kept an eye to make sure it was all correct. But hey, I mean, I crazy stories from those rooms where celebs, doing blow and reading poetry, and one's, there was it all went on. But everybody's human. We've got into this celebrity infatuation that's obviously driven by TMZ and all the celebrity,
Yeah.
shows and columns where we worship celebrities. They're human, and some of them behave bad. You give a 18-year-old kid, $500 million, and and with all that going on, I mean, of course they're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
They're human, and giving them a chance to just. I've always had this, great relationship with most of the celebrities, and Donald Trump was one of my partners, so I know Donald, I know his daughter, I know Ivanka, I know Ivana before she passed away. Every celebrity you've ever heard of. For me, of course, in the beginning, it was a little bit, oh wow, especially with the ones like Jack, Nicholson, and Sean, Penn, and Johnny Depp and those guys. But I really just that faded really quickly, and I saw them as human, and my function has and was, or was and has been that if you're in my house, I'm taking care of you. You know what I'm saying? So my job is to give you a good time, let you relax. That's my job. I'm not, a dentist pulls people's teeth out. I'm here to give you a good time. I sell fun. And what a great fucking job to have, selling fun. Make a living. I made a living out of partying.
Yes.
So I don't take that for granted. Not to say that it doesn't take hours and hours a day, all night. You've always got to be accessible. Every relationship, and the one marriage I've had is just, they're walking out. I'm helping them pack as they're walking out the door. Any girlfriend is impossible to keep.
Yeah.
They want to have kiss, hello, love. Oh, you're dinner with 20 again. That's been the cause of every break. But I'm still friends with all my exes. They just couldn't be with me. That's why I've got wolves, because they don't answer back. But there's definitely a price to pay. But humanity, I think we've lost our empathy and our compassion, and everyone's so quick online to just go straight for the jugular. Somebody says a comment, even here in Bali, which is quite some of these group pages,
You'll see a bunch of comments after this one.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and if you say anything bad, I'll fucking find you.
I don't read them, but
no, of course. Look, not everybody has to like you. Just be fair.
Yeah.
If I've done something or you've done something, I try to live our organic farms do good things. I help God knows how many people, blah blah. But not everyone has to like me. I understand that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But people here are just like people who just leave a comment online like, "Hi, where can I get a rental scooter?" I mean, it's just like straight fucking come out of the woodwork, and it's like they rip you apart.
Yeah.
This poor bastard who's looking to come to Bali and their first, Canggu community. They put a post online and they get ripped to shreds. Like I was going to say wolf pack, but not a wolf pack, but another pack. It's brutal.
Yeah.
You can't show your vulnerability. You can't, men cry.
Yeah. I'm actually worried about my kids.
I'd be fucking worried too these days.
Worried about my kids. They're very young.
How old are they?
They're 3 and 5 right now. And
Boy or girl?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Oh, one boy, one girl?
One boy, one
I'd be
girl.
horrified to bring a girl into this world right now.
Even a boy, like the thing is that when you're young, you don't understand that people, when they speak bad things, it's more about them than about you.
Yeah.
And you take it seriously, and then a lot of actually teenagers, they commit suicide. They're depressed these days just because online somebody tells
bullying,
them
online bullying. Of course, I mean, look, the old days bullying was you were at school in the playground, and the local bully, give you a smack in the face, and that was that. But these days, these kids online bullying is absolutely awful.
Yeah.
And a mass of other things. I mean, young girls and young boys being sexualized before they're sensitized. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got pornography that's available. God knows what they're looking at, and the discussion about just relationships and interactions between people. They don't get the sensitivity before they get the sexual side of it,
100%.
which is absolutely that's not going to work. It has to go in tandem. So guarding your kid from that with so much information fucking overload, it's terrifying. To be honest with you, I always wanted kids. I'm really happy I never had kids. I would be losing my mind if I had a child right now. But
Yeah,
you do your best job to teach them, right?
in my childhood, remember one time I was running my mouth online or something like that in a school chat. Then the guy came and just broke my nose. And
Oh, he
from
did?
that on, I would watch what I say. And I think that was terrible, but I also was some of the best thing that happened to me because I knew that there is a
Well,
accountability.
funny you should say that, because that was one of the things I actually wanted to say, because yesterday or a couple of days ago, there was somebody posted something, and then some guy insinuated something about me, and we got to him quite quickly and had a call, and he took it down. There is no accountability anymore. In our day, 70s, if you had something to say to someone, you say it to them, they bashed you in the face, or you had a scrap about it, and then you sort of dusted each other off, shook hands, and walked away from it.
Yeah.
These days, you've got millions who have become these sort of online warriors who are shooting accusations, comments, aggressiveness with no accountability whatsoever, and they haven't been held accountable for their actions. This is horrifying to me, and that's why you see it, because and it just gets worse. So I see people popping up on some of the group chat. I stay away from them.
Yeah.
I'm fucking scared to even write anything on some of these community pages, because somebody's angry. They're having a shitty day. They're anonymous, and off they go.
Yeah.
And then and it just creates this atmosphere of anger, and of course, for Bali has always been this beautiful, for me anyway. I'm from the old days. We never had anything. People didn't get angry, and nobody was honking horns in traffic and screaming, fighting. I mean, occasionally people got drunk and had a fight, but it's Bali over the I've been here since on and off since 83, 93, 2013, like 40 years now.
Wow.
And seeing, just Bali, and this is the nice island where people are nice to each other. I mean, forget these New York pages and city pages and London. It's just become angry, racist.
I know.
Brutal.
I've
brutal.
been to Singapore last week. I did a half marathon in Singapore, and I was like, this is so strange, because the people, I mean, I haven't been in the West for a while, so Singapore is to me close where I've been. And I noticed this entitlement to complete next level, where people just, everything you do, they need to call you out. And they call you out this passive aggressive way.
And then
like,
pull out the phone and
your
start
kids are
videoing
too
you.
loud. You stand in the wrong place. The taxi is not coming to you because you're staying 2 meters from somewhere else. And I'm like, I'm a tourist here. Give me a break. Enjoy it as somebody else going and enjoying your city. And I got so mad. I'm like, why are you guys so entitled? Like, I want to go back
that's
to Bali.
a bigger, if you multiply that, I mean, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I've been really quite, not depressed, but I'm online a lot, obviously, with messages and social media for the businesses and stuff. And I get dragged off into these pages and comments and and it's horrifying. It seems that the world, not only because of all the wars out there right now and the potential for those to escalate in all the places that we know, whether it's Middle East or Russia or Ukraine, Korea, this, that, wherever. It seems everyone is at each other's throats. If I was religious in any way, I would say that the fucking devil is firmly in charge at the moment, and he's having a field day, because he's got everyone at each other's throats, arguing, fighting, bitter. The kindness, humanity, empathy, compassion seems to have left the arena, except in small cases here and there, which, back in the day, you went to Facebook because it was happy news. Everyone was like, oh, that's nice. There's a nice picture. Oh, that's nice. I like your family, I like your dog. Forget that. Facebook's brutal as well. It's just got really ugly. And I don't know where we're going to go from here. I don't know it's not going in the right direction. I really don't have, honestly, much hope for humanity at the moment. I know that sounds like really doom and gloom. And I try to be positive. In Bali, we're here. Every day is a happy day, right? But maybe stay away from doing so much time online.
That's what I do. I don't read
depressing.
comments. Instagram, I don't follow anybody. Facebook, I don't follow anybody. This account, social media, is done by my team. So I actually stay
Good for
offline.
you.
I don't watch news for the last 5 years, and I feel really good.
Oh, great.
I
got to stop doing that then.
I don't know what's happening in the world. I know, like, if something happens, people tell me. But they tell me from their perspective, and I'm like, all right, so we discuss it, and this is like a nice discussion. I am actually finding something for somebody else, and that made me actually really happy, because I went in a depressive route when I was starting posting online and being online too much.
Yeah, and
it's all fake.
I'm in that position right now, and obviously, I go home at night. I don't have a partner, a female partner. I sleep with this lot, and they're just growling all night. But I spend way too much on time and calls, and I think after COVID, I don't know what happened with COVID. During COVID, we were all home online, and just it never stopped. I sleep like 2 or 3 hours a night. I'm always messaging around the world with people, and I'm actually get really fucking depressed. at the state of the world right now, and you have to get off. I've got to learn that to get offline and not be so. Every news channel, every
Yeah.
CNN, BBC, UK,
The
Fox.
good hack is to delete Instagram from your phone and only use it on your laptop, which is then you don't
You have to
have,
open up the
yeah,
laptop.
you don't have, like, that's what I
Oh,
did, and
that's
I
going to be
actually
a tough
don't
one.
use it
It's
that much.
addictive. You
It
get
is.
addicted to these
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
phones,
yeah, yeah.
So I don't know where the world's going to go. I do know that, we love Bali. Bali's a great place.
Yes.
We've got from what I see around the world, I think we've got the best of it.
Yeah.
Somebody's phone gets stolen, it still makes news. Your kids can walk down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand why people get mad and in traffic here. I mean, come on, where you going to the office? No, most people aren't. You're going to the beach.
Sometimes I'm standing in
When I get
traffic.
to the liquor store,
I'm in the traffic and I get mad and I'm checking myself out.
I
I'm
see
like,
them all in
I
traffic.
just,
They're like,
yeah,
I go, where the fuck are you in a hurry to get
exactly.
to? Bali has been through. Again, I look around the world, right? The Tulums, the Ibifas, the this. We don't have copious amounts of drugs here, thank God. So it's quite clean of that. People are healthy there. They want to go to the gym and look good. Being white at 5 a.m. like a ghost isn't a good look. So that's not really prominent here. There's lots of opportunity, business opportunity. It's generally safe. There are a few idiots out there, of course.
Yeah.
But I think we've got the best of it. And I have people obviously look at my social media and they're like, fuck, do you really live like that? And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And you can make what you want of it. Look, it's, just be mindful in Bali about taking and giving. I think a lot of people come here and think it's, Ibiza 2.0. If you miss going to temple here, if you miss the culture, there are 270 ceremonial days a year. Go to temple once in a while and put Chanang offering down. Thank the gods.
Yeah.
You'll feel really good for it. Get involved a little bit with the community. Give back. Don't just take. Don't just use Bali as a party town, because if you're not including Bali culture and culture in your life, you're really missing most of what Bali's about.
100%.
All the party stuff is great and going to the clubs and finding girls and getting drunk, but if you don't do the other stuff, I can't even describe it. You're missing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people come here and think, oh, this is. There's so much to this island. Get out of the Ubud, Canggu, Uluwatu triangle. Go north.
Yeah.
Go up to the mountains. Take a walk. Oh, it's spectacular up there.
I go there all the time.
Yeah, good for you. Get out of Dodge. And when you come back, you're like, oh, well, that's great. You're excited to come. If you stay, Bali is also quite, it's a spiritually intense island.
Yeah.
Everything happens very quickly, cause and effect. The spiritual realm is, and I'm not one of those. I'm a cynical New Yorker, but the spiritual plane is really close. It's really intense, and if you spend too much time here like this, you're going to go nuts. So you've got to, get out a little bit. Just get into the fresh. There's tons of beauty, and the culture's still there. Bali has withstood, the Japanese, the Dutch, the this, and now it's got to deal with, I won't say who, but certain countries who come here and are perhaps misbehaving at the moment. But Bali will always, as long as it keeps its culture and its tradition and banjar and ceremonies, I have strong hopes for Bali. We check all the mass construction going on and just put some controls there. We got the best place in the world. Why would you not wake up every morning and just fucking kiss the ground and say, fuck, it doesn't get better than this. It really doesn't.
100%. On that note, the last question I ask
Sure.
everybody, according to Mark Baker, how to live a happy and fulfilling life.
How to live a happy and fulfilling life. Well, it depends kind of what age you are. There's different strokes
For you now.
For me now, I get up in the morning with my wolves early. I'm up around dawn, when I used to be coming home at dawn. So I love seeing the birds and, the sun or the whatever it is that weather we got that day. I stay on track. I have work. I have lots of work. I have, a number of businesses here. That keeps me from drifting off. If I didn't have, like, the train tracks, you got to stay.
Yeah.
So, have a mission, have a dream, fulfill your dream. If you want the dream, then you go get your dreams. You can. Dreams are attainable. The lifestyle you want. Maybe, if you're stuck in I'm talking about people off island, people are in Bali, but off island, if you don't like your life, go and change it. I mean, get up and leave and go to another. I did it. I mean, not saying it's for everybody, but, live, what was that? Live to work, not work to live, or whatever that is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you have a dream, a certain way that you like. I mean, not everyone obviously can be as carefree as that because it has its pitfalls, but have a dream, figure out a way to get there, be persistent, never give up, never give up, never give up. Don't take no for an answer, and go for your dream. And then, you know, maybe there'll be some twists and turns there, but dreams come true. They really do. You know, and it may not be exactly the way you thought it would. But you know, don't, you know, aim high, and if it falls a little short, it's fine. But and just be a good person. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
just be mindful and don't go out there ripping and effing and cheating and fucking people over. You can. It may take like I said before, it may take a little longer, but do it the right way, and you know, you get a lot of joy from that, from actually creating something and being successful at something, as opposed to just being given it.
100%.
You know, that's the reason why you enjoy something, is when you've really worked hard for it, as opposed to having it. That's why I feel sorry for a lot of wealthy friends of mine. They're bored stiff. They've been given everything. They've got no challenge. They've got no feeling of satisfaction.
Yeah.
So
Everything
just
is-
be a good person. Be nice. Be polite. Be nice to animals. Do something for Bali. Give back, and enjoy every day that you're alive. Because, you know, there's two things that will fuck you. It's your health and your liberty. So you're in jail, you've got no choice about what you want to do. Or if you're sick and you're in the hospital bed, so take care of your health and make sure that you don't lose your liberty.
Amazing. Thank you for coming. Thank
My
you for
absolute
sharing.
pleasure. And I'm going to give a little plug for
All right.
my business, In the Raw, organic produce, vegetables and fruits we deliver. In the Raw cold pressed juice keeps you healthy.
They are amazing.
After those boozy nights, it's got to be about balance. If you want to party, come to Savaya or Desa Kitsune. And I'm going to give something to you that I haven't told anyone as a final parting piece.
All right.
My passion is wolves. I get on better with them than girls. And next year at Nuanu, I am opening up the southern hemispheres. That's the southern half of the planet, for all of you who don't know geography. The first Wolf Lodge Resort and Rescue Center, where we will bring all our wolves there in a beautiful, beautiful setting. I've got a hectare of land at Nuanu, and all the wolves will be there. You can come and stay. You can come and learn. You can come and interact. You can come and do everything, because I want everyone to come here. You. I want everyone to be able to interact with these beauties. Come here, sweetheart. Come here. Oh. And all the wolves will be there in this beautiful facility. Come here. Oh. Come here. Up you go. Come here. And you'll be able to come and say hi to Loki and the rest of the pack. Huh?
I'll have to take a picture.
Oh,
of that.
absolutely. And yeah, so I want to share my wolves with everybody. For people who haven't met wolves or who have any ideas about wolves, next year it's going to be called the Alpha Wolf Lodge. It'll be at Nuanu City, and we'll have the whole pack, and we've got some surprises coming up. So I hope you'll come and join us. There was my plug. Come and join us.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
Ow. See ya.